Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we are going to talk about a few different things. To start off, we're going to talk about impeachment and the Democratic Party. Hunter Biden is, of course, corrupt. And Joe is too. So we'll see if Merrick Garland can face the fire. Then we're going to briefly mention some pizza. Because New York might be facing just a taste of what the Dutch farmers faced. So we'll see how that goes down. And then we're going to mention a lot of weird, crazy stuff that happened at the Pride parades over the weekend. It's really, really disturbing. All of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast. Alrighty, so some of you may be thinking, oh, Steven's doing a show by himself. Oh, that's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to start. Danny will eventually join once he's set up, and then I'll switch from the solo show to the dual show. So start, you just have me. So if I'm slow on the uptake, on answering any of your questions, on addressing your live stream commentary, then that would be why. So I'm going to try and keep it open on my phone so that I can see it for everybody. And if anything shows up, then I will keep that in mind. But for now, some of you may have seen there was a video that I put up over the weekend. Danny is, of course, in Kelowna. So I went to a rally, the rally for ending gender ideology in school. It's part of a kind of a system of unified rallies across Canada between all sorts of Muslims, and it's called Leave Our Kids Alone. So we did some interviews. I tried to do some interviews on both sides, but didn't work out super well. There was a police line. There was some pushing and shoving with some other people. My volunteer to be my videographer, Cade, I did a pretty good job for his first time. It was funny because he went to school for journalism, and that was his first real shot at actual live journalism. So he did a good job. Kudos to Cade. Thanks a lot, buddy, for coming out. Hope you had a great time. But, so before Danny joins on, we're going to talk about a few things. So, I'm not going to mention this as a part of the regular show. We're not going to go over this with a story. I know that people had mentioned prior that there was a bit of an incident. What are you saying no to, Conquer Worm? What are you saying no to? What's this? No! We'll address that later. You're so mean. But, so we brought this up in our kind of guest server. The audio recordings from Trump, they were released. I didn't come here to hear talking. Of course you didn't. Sure, I'm not sure what you came here for, Conquer Worm. But there will be a video later. Oh, I hear a common sound. That is a common sound. I hadn't even started into the stories yet. So I will switch over. So let's start Mein Kampf. And then we can get going on things. So, for those who are watching, most of you know why we call it Mein Kampf. It's weird. But it is one of the only programs that allows me to record Danny's video while he's doing the show. So, I will take it. So, commentary. There we go. And then, Danny, your microphone? Can't hear you yet. So I will keep talking until Danny finishes setting up his microphone. But, if anybody has any chat, that'd be good. Oh, I hear a weird voice. So that's probably a good sign from Danny. Setting things up on his end. Danny? Oh, I'm getting some... There's kind of some... No, I can't hear you. And I was hearing like some back and forth. So, for those who don't know, Danny is having some sound issues because he's trying to set up in not his usual setup. That's why he doesn't have his microphone. He has his headphone microphone, which is shoddy by comparison. So, and that is, of course, why Danny couldn't participate in the events downtown. So, it was very interesting going with my buddy Cade. He's like, how do we look as neutral as possible? And I look at him and I'm like we're dressed now. I'm like, plain colors, like nothing special. But, yep. So,
okay,
hoping...
Can you hear me now, Steven?
I can hear you now. You're just quiet, but I can boost you.
Yeah, boost me. I think I found the right microphone.
Okay, so try that.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, keep talking.
Hello, my name is Danny. I am Cedar Sweet, and I'm here to tell you we're the Shrew Dudes.
Yep, that's some pretty good sound. I don't think we're gonna have any issues with that. So let's work with that. So, Danny, how's your time been in Kelowna before we get going?
It's been good, man. I have been I've been going on bike rides, hanging out with my family. Me and my nephew have been playing both badminton and spike ball, which everybody knows what spike ball is. It's volleyball with a little trampoline.
Yes, I've seen it.
I beat him in the first set of games we had, and he smoked me in the second one, so we're kind of even.
Now, forgive me for being maybe a little bit ignorant. Isn't that also called pickleball?
No, pickleball is think of it like ping pong, but on a badminton court.
Oh.
Literally, I've seen it played. It's like you have little paddles and the balls are a little bigger and all that, but you play it on a ping pong court. And what they do, it's a badminton court, they lower the nets down to the ground, kind of like a tennis court.
Okay.
And so that's how it's played. But spike ball, it's like you play
I've seen the circle. I've seen people play it in parks.
It's really fun.
I just thought it was called pickleball.
Nope, that's spike ball. Pickleball is ping pong in tennis form.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's really fun. Yeah, and it's been hot here, man. Super hot.
Yeah, it's gonna get warmer over the next couple days here in Calgary.
Yeah, and the heat here is different than in Calgary. Calgary is dry, so you don't feel the heat as much. Here, I've been here a couple of days, and every day I'm coming home and I'm like, ugh. Like, just it's so much more overwhelming. So it's been crazy, but yeah. So did you just literally just start?
Yeah, like by the time you joined, I was only about 3 minutes in.
Cool. Okay, all I need you to do is share your screen, and I think we're ready to go.
Oh yeah, I guess I was not thinking about that with you not here.
Yeah, it also looks like I have a little halo over my head right now with a little light.
There it is.
I'm excited though, man. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, no, like this is kind of just like a major headline day.
Mm-hmm.
So also because we don't want to keep Danny for too long because he is of course staying with family. So that's part of the reason why. So let's jump in and talk about some Biden corruption.
Let's jump the shark.
Well, that's not jumping the shark. This is just like regular stuff.
What's jumping you shark? I thought that was an expression for like let's get going. Is that wrong?
No, jumping the shark is something. It's a reference to, I believe it's Happy Days,
Okay.
and because they literally used a. Oh wow, 39 in Texas. That's crazy. But
Temperature wise. Oh
yeah,
wow.
jumping the shark. So I believe it was the Fonz in Happy Days, and he
Okay.
jumped over a shark on water skis
Okay.
because it was kind of a metaphor for like not being able to have like a solid story, and so they just made like something weird and crazy happen. And
Okay.
it's usually the sign of a TV show that it's run its course, and so they've jumped the shark, and the rest of the
Oh,
show is just kind of like
like
drifting
they
into
basically they
meaninglessness.
basically showed their hand that they're basically over the
Isn't that
hill.
amazing? This totally wins
What
my
the
case,
heck?
you know. Except it is like highly.
I did not press play on that.
You got something playing.
I didn't press play on it. It just started.
Oh, weird.
Now, okay, so before we start the show, before we start talking about the indictment, I was going to talk about that.
Okay.
And yes, Conquer Worm, the show did die after that. So we had talked about the tapes a while back
Okay.
from Trump. Tapes, of course, were leaked to CNN, which has its own problems. The DOJ is leaking very sensitive information to CNN. So that's its own set of questions, its own set of problems.
Stay on point. Stay on point.
Stay on point. So
Mhm.
these tapes, they're definitely not a good look for Trump. They seem to be totally legit, not fabricated. So yeah, like it's very odd that Trump would be so he would put himself in such an exposed position like that.
Yeah, I think. Okay, so I don't normally agree with what's his name. Ben Shapiro has. I'm not a huge fan of some of his positions.
Yeah.
He kind of talked about how this is actually a very serious indictment
Yeah.
against Trump. I'm like, yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that the implications of this are big. The potential, the chances that this could actually go all the way and result in some serious jail time. Sure, it's there.
It's possible.
It's possible. All that kind of stuff is there. Yet again, we can't ignore the fact that
Oh yeah. Double
this
standard.
is clearly you're taking something that sure you're working within the bounds of the law, but you're clearly abusing the law in a way
It's weaponized
that's
in an exceptionally directed
it's
fashion.
lawfare. It's just basically lawfare. Is
Yeah,
what
it is. It is.
Sure, you can, and the way that lawfare works for anybody it's that it's plausible deniability. That's one of the best things about lawfare. You can say, well, this is all in the law, so we only use the law to basically make this happen. But you can essentially abuse the law system and totally game the system in order to punish political opponents, and this is what they do. There's a reason why a lot of major conservative shows and personalities they intentionally overpay on their taxes,
Mm-hmm.
not because they feel like they have to, but because they understand
That they'll be
that
targeted.
the people who are in positions of power will abuse the system in any way that they can to try to get to you, and so they have to insulate themselves, and they have to be very careful of what they say. Like remember, like a while back, Ben Shapiro was caught on a hot mic saying like, "Oh, we should probably take out that little segment
Yeah.
where I said this trans whatever community because of this and that," and people were like,
The
"Oh my
backlash.
goodness, look at." But I was like, "Yeah, I get that because." You unfortunately do not live in a vacuum. You live in a system
Mm-hmm.
that is rigged against conservatives,
Yeah.
and you have to operate within that system.
Well, it's like
Trump,
for you and I.
yeah,
It's like for you and I.
yeah,
We will deliberately, like when we were talking about certain things, like vaccines, we would always
yeah,
mention them. We would always mention them as jibby jabs. Whenever we were talking before YouTube allowed us to mention that the 2020 election was rigged, we would say the muffin sale. Like, there are words and there are ways that you can refer to things in order to, it's like, yes, we would love to say these things outright. We'd love to say these things out loud, but we're also working within a system that is inherently corrupt.
Yes.
And so we did a lot of things that we didn't want to do. And we avoided talking about some stories, or at least modified the way we talked about some stories in order so that we wouldn't be removed on some of these major platforms because they have a political agenda. And that sucks. And we try and primarily stick to platforms that don't have a political agenda, or at least try as much as they can not to, which is, of course, why we stream on Twitter. And it's why Twitter is where we're most active, because right now it is the freest large social media platform. We can't hear you, Daddy. So while Danny fixes his audio, I will briefly talk about the story. And then we can kind of consider it once Danny finishes sorting out his stuff. So McCarthy considers impeachment inquiry of AG Merrick Garland over Hunter Biden. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is considering launching an impeachment inquiry of our Attorney General Merrick Garland's handling an investigation into President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. McCarthy tweeted on Sunday that he wants Trump-appointed U.S. Attorney David Weiss to provide answers to the House Judiciary Committee regarding accusations made by two former IRS agents about Weiss's probe of the younger Biden on which they worked. At the whistleblowers, allegations are true. This will be a significant part of a larger impeachment inquiry into Merrick Garland's weaponization of the DOJ. An inquiry would be the precursor to the House potentially voting on specific articles of impeachment on Garland. On Monday, McCarthy told Fox, if it comes true what the IRS whistleblower is saying, we're going to start impeachment inquiries on the Attorney General. Okay. Curtis, do you want to say hi? You can say hi for a little bit. Okay, we still can't hear you, Danny. I'm not sure why. But oh. Now I get a lot of reverberation from you. I still can't hear you, but I can hear myself. Nope. Danny's going to continue to sort this out. I will let him know. Just keep trying things out, and if I hear something, if I hear your voice, then I'll let you know. So, no, just keep trying. One of the whistleblowers, Gary Shapley, claimed that during an October 7th, 2022 meeting at the Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, Weiss said he did not have the ability to charge in other districts and unsuccessfully requested special counsel status from the Department of Justice. Garland refuted that. The only person with authority to make someone a special counsel or refuse to make someone a special counsel is the Attorney General. Mr. Weiss never made that request to me. This is Garland speaking. And in a June 7th letter to the House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, Weiss wrote that Garland had granted him ultimate authority over the Hunter Biden investigation, including responsibility for deciding when, and whether to file charges at all. So, on Monday, McCarthy referred to Fox News on a July 6th deadline set by Republicans for Weiss to answer the Judiciary Committee's questions before initiating an impeachment inquiry. So this is, of course, a good step, and this is leading towards further processes. On Friday, we got even more kind of damning whistleblower allegations. So there was a WhatsApp message that came to light. So according to this WhatsApp message, Joe was sitting next to Hunter when he demanded payment from a Chinese businessman. IRS whistleblower Kame's president's son used his father's name to threaten associate and damning WhatsApp message. So he was part of the conversation President's son was having with associate Henry Zhao. Hunter was staying at his father's Delaware guest home at the time, the whistleblower told the Ways and Means Committee. So the exact phrase, quote, I am sitting here with my father and would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled, he wrote in 2017, according to the testimony released by the GOP. He then said, according to the testimony, tell the director I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. So, and I can hear you now.
Yeah, it's long story short. I won't get into it, but I'm getting the sound from the webcam.
Okay.
Because it has the best microphone, but it's every so often it seems to kind of stop recording audio. So I'm hoping that it's just like something small.
Okay. I'll let you know if it continues to be an issue.
Cool. You let me know.
Yeah. So, like, this is Hunter Biden corruption, Joe Biden corruption. This is nothing new. We saw this coming back in 2016. Oh, not in 2016. In 2020, prior to the election, like the laptop was damning enough, and the FBI said back then, it's like, oh, this is Russian disinformation. It's all fake, and we knew that the FBI had it for years. The FBI has had all this information for years, and the FBI has refused to pursue it. And they refused to pursue it under Trump, and now, of course, they definitely refuse to pursue anything related to this under Hunter Biden. And we saw the sweetheart deal he got last Thursday. And I just don't see a way out. I do not see unless, well, okay, they will try and impeach Merrick Garland. I don't know the process for impeaching
Basically,
an attorney general.
I think it's similar to the president.
Okay, so it has to go through the House and the Senate.
Yes.
So it'll pass in the House and then it'll fail in the Senate.
In a nutshell, basically the House, because they have a majority, will unless Republican members rebel and decide, like, oh, we want to be like the above board. I'm like, give me a break. You guys are like cowards or traitors, one of those two. Unless something odd happens, it'll probably pass in the House, and then it'll be rejected in the Senate because the Senate has a Democratic majority. But we'll get the same result as we got with President Trump, where Trump was impeached by a Democrat House, but the impeachment didn't actually go through because the Senate was Republican. The only way that an impeachment could actually succeed is you'd have to have basically so if you have a Republican majority in the House to attain the impeachment, and I think I could be wrong, but I think you have to have at least a 60 vote majority in order to get an impeachment in the Senate. I think that's the problem. You basically have to get past the filibuster, and so it's actually quite difficult. So it sounds like this is going to be more symbolic of, like, basically tit for tat, right? I'm not against that. I think that would be fine, because I think you have to have a tit for tat here, because you have to show that, at least demonstrate that your government is every bit as corrupt, if not more, as you claim the Trump presidency was. And so it sounds like we're going to get an impeachment of Biden, potentially an impeachment of Merrick Garland, but it'll just be symbolic rather than actual. It won't have any teeth, essentially. Yeah. By the way, quick question related to the story. Did you by chance see the Culture War? Tim Pool's doing a new live stream called The Culture War, and he had a girl named Emma Gold. Or
I saw a little bit of that. Yep.
Okay.
But we'll talk about that during the next segment, because the next segment we're going to talk about. Well, it's a little bit relevant to this, but I find it's because they talked about a lot of stuff.
Because of the indictment.
Oh, okay.
Because they talked about indictment of versus the impeachment of Trump. What I wanted to say is I found it interesting. First of all, that lady was infuriating. She was it's like getting basically insulted by somebody who's smiling at you.
Yep.
It's like me. She was infuriating. It was so obvious that she was there to basically make him look bad. But she's like, you're like, I was like, anyways, what she said, Tim Pool brought up the idea that it's obvious that Joe Biden has some very problematic issues, like that. All of these accusations are very serious, and that he himself was involved in a quid pro quo. Now, she kept saying that, making the case or the argument that Republicans are all about that they're all about echo chambers, and then she was basically arguing or trying to defend Joe Biden to the teeth, basically saying oh no, it's not a quid pro quo. Oh no, it's totally fine. Oh no, and everything she was saying, it was like being lied to your face, but it's by a professional liar who's really thought. She's not just a liar on the fly. She is a professional liar. And I was like, holy crap! Like you're seeing somebody who literally has taken a lot of time to learn how to lie convincingly, but she's lying to your face. I was amazed because she was a perfect example of what the media, of what these politicians, of what all these people are. They are professional liars,
Yeah.
and it's so amazing to watch them
Huge grifters.
get into like intellectual pretzels. The lengths that they have to go through to try to like argue that Biden is pure and innocent. He would never do anything. And these are just political attacks on poor innocent Biden. And Trump is like, whoa, well, he's clearly like. They start with the premise that their side is innocent, their side is the morally superior, their side is up above board, and that the other side automatically is wrong. And then that's where they start. They start with that assumption, and then everything that they do, they build upon that assumption. My side is right, your side is wrong, and I will go through every length in the book to try to argue that. That is what, like, I've been seeing on a grand scale when you watch people in the Senate or in the House be questioned about this. They immediately go to like they will defend him like crazy. They'll do every rhetorical trick in the book. It's amazing. So if you haven't seen it, go watch that interview. It was crazy. I've never seen such a intellectually dishonest person try to basically grift live, and they try to like always try to imply that she's got the moral high ground. You're the morally impure and wrong one. It was amazing. So with this story, I thought, okay, it wouldn't even be hard to admit that yeah, Joe Biden has some shady deals. Maybe there's some way to this. No, it's that they can't even do it. They have to, by default, defend a very like a person that is indefensible. They have to defend them by default. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch. So I don't know if you guys have seen what Biden's accused of. It seems very serious, and a lot of these accusations and things, they look like they have some serious teeth, but they just play the denial card. Biden is pure and innocent and
Yep.
and sacred and holy. It's amazing. It's
Oh, it's
incredible.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say about that. It was very relevant to what I was
Yep.
like watching this. I was like, yeah, that's what they all do.
Okay, so brief interlude before we talk. Oh, rant over. I know. There's going to be quite a few rants this week.
Oh yeah.
So let's talk about pizza,
Oh,
because we all like pizza, but
do.
apparently New York is going to get
we do.
a lot less pizza. So BBC plan to slice New York pizza oven emissions by 75% causes backlash. A rule change proposed on Friday will require pizzerias to evaluate whether they can install emissions control devices to their kitchen stoves. Critics say the devices will cost a lot of dough and may affect the flavor of the world-famous cheese and tomato pie. BBC, no puns. Come on.
That was horrible.
That was horrible. On
Man.
Monday, a man tossed slices of pizza at New York City Hall in protest. Give us pizza or give us death, shouted conservative activist Scott Labado. In a reference to, of course, the Revolutionary War slogan, the act caught the attention of Mayor Eric Adams, who responded with an impassioned defense of the beloved city staple. I think pizzas have saved more marriages than any other foods. Sharing a pie with your boo is like that's the ultimate. The New York rule proposed by the city's Department of Environmental Protection will apply to coal and wood-fired ovens installed before 2016. Officials say would affect less than 100 of the city's countless pizza joints.
Yeah.
It's not just going to stop with the coal and wood-fired ovens, though. So restaurants will be required to evaluate their exhaust system to determine if they can be outfitted with scrubbers capable of trapping pollutants. If so, they will be required to install and maintain them. All New Yorkers deserve to breathe healthy air, and wood and coal-fired stoves are amongst the largest contributors. Oh, I have to say this in a very, very nasally voice. All New Yorkers deserve to breathe healthy air, and wood and coal-fired stoves are amongst the largest contributors of harmful pollutants in neighborhoods with poor air quality. The DEP said in a statement on Sunday.
That's only slightly less annoying than like hearing Mayor Adams talk.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Like, it's
So
more what he
this
said.
quote-unquote common sense rule
No, you know what? I hate that they have to say that. They have to call it common sense because it's so obvious it's not common sense.
It's so obviously.
This is gaslighting. It's like the save puppies bill, which in reality is nothing more than like a tax hike.
Yeah.
We're like, well, we oppose this tax hike. You hate puppies? Why do you hate puppies? It's like, oh my gosh, liars, all of them.
Yeah. Oh, what was it like the reducing? What was that bill that Biden had? And then they changed it, and it was like
the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yes, the Inflation Reduction Act was basically just a whole
nothing.
ton of spending. Or, of course, in Canada, like next week, for those of you Americans, next week we're getting, or at least those of us with families, and I think, Danny, you're getting a little bit too, but we're getting the grocery rebate, in which the federal government is spending billions. Like, okay, maybe not billions, but hundreds of millions of dollars to give eligible Canadians up to about $700 to help with their grocery bills. And it's like, I wonder what will help with your grocery bills. Giving you a bunch of money and therefore, like, inflating the currency, or maybe spending less money and having your dollar worth more. I don't know.
It's okay. It takes you back to the days. If I don't know if you ever seen you've seen Gladiator, right? The whole story of Marcus Aurelius was succeeded by Commodus. Okay, the historical Commodus, he actually did do what they said in the movie, which is he basically did circuses and he did like massive spectacles, but he also gave bread to the masses. This is giving bread to the masses is essentially what they're doing here. The idea is you bribe people with their own money. You try to buy them off and to try to prove to them, look at us, we're the benevolent ones, we're helping. But in reality, what you don't realize is you're getting bribed with the money that they stole from you. Okay, because inflation is basically a way of taxing you without taxing you. Because everyone knows, as a politician, one of the best ways to completely and totally lose support is to increase taxes. And so politicians are smart, and they've realized, well, it's too difficult to raise taxes because people know that we're charging them more, which is why they try to claim that it's not a carbon tax, it's a price on carbon, which is basically just verbal gymnastics to try to not call it a tax. And then but with with this with these money back, what they're doing is they're trying to basically make you think, look at all we're doing. We're giving people childcare. We're giving them free dental care. They're basically taking your money. And then when you get too rowdy and you start to make too much noise and you start to complain too much, they take the money that is yours and they pay you off with your own money. This is the tactic. So this is a perfect example of the difference between the liberal mindset, or I'd say the socialist mindset, because liberals, SDP, Democrats, they're all socialists or communists, and then the conservative mindset. The conservative mindset is equipping people to succeed. It's the teach a man to fish approach. Okay, conservatives are all about teach a man to fish. Give people the tools to be able to succeed and to better themselves and to grow. That's the basic mindset of the conservative side. Then you have the socialist side, which is give a man a fish. That's their idea. Give us all your money, or whatever way they can, and then they give handouts. So whenever the liberals, and if you ever watch Parliament and the debates that they have, whenever the conservatives criticize the Liberal Party members, including Trudeau, about their how terrible things are, the Liberals will always come out and say, well, we've paid people off, we've given them childcare, we've given them this tax credit, we've subsidized this, we've spent all this money on infrastructure. You'll notice every brag that they have is we've threw money at the problem, and so we're the problem and we're the solution. They basically campaign as Robin Hood they always claim like, oh, we're for the little guy. We're going to steal from the rich and give to the poor. But when they're actually in power, they're more like the sheriff of Nottingham. They basically steal and rob the poor to enrich themselves. That's basically what anybody from the socialist side is. And I try to be fair. I try to be fair-minded. But this is, you watch this. This is exactly how they operate. Today, I actually met with a family friend of my mom, and he was like lamenting the NDP, and I was like, yeah, people are legitimately like they've been fooled into believing that these people are like the morally upright saviors when the NDP has literally wrecked this province. BC is a nightmare right now.
It is a nightmare. But speaking of nightmares, let's talk about the Pride parades, because those were nightmares.
Yeah, this week it was bad.
This week it was bad. So let's start off with, of course, the most obvious. So in New York, drag marchers spark outrage with "We're coming for your children" chant at NYC Pride Parade.
Lovely.
Yes. LGBTQ activists participating in New York City's annual drag march on Friday sparked outrage for chanting "We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children" at a Manhattan Park. The marchers, many wearing flamboyant dresses and clothing, walked through Tompkins Square in the East Village Friday as part of the city's Pride celebrations. Video of the march shows people laughing and joining in with a cheeky chant, including one dancing topless woman.
Yeah.
Others could be heard chanting.
Would be like light, to say
Yeah.
the least.
So this is just some generalized images of the drag march, and then other pictures from that, and then I'll grab the video. I'm not going to show. I'm basically just going to hear. We're just going to have the audio for the video. Yeah. I'm going to scroll down because it is inappropriate.
Take you down because,
yeah. So,
amazing. Yeah. YouTube supports this, yet they will also take you down if you show this. It's crazy.
Okay. No. I'm just switching over to the commentary. Yeah, that's totally appropriate.
I don't know if you saw, Stephen. Did you see that there was people were dancing in Manhattan? I think it was Manhattan, or it might be DC, in a fountain.
Yeah,
but they were like completely 100% nude.
Oh yeah,
like many of them were completely nude.
No, that was
out in public.
That was Toronto.
That was Toronto.
Yeah, there's actually the next story.
Well, crazy! I didn't know that.
Here, actually, I'll just switch over to that one. So, where is it? I scroll all the way down. Are Torontonians proud of naked marchers and Pride Parade? So, naked truth is once again men and women appeared in Toronto Pride Parades completely in the buff. Bud Light supporters Toronto Pride Parade attended by naked men. Video from the event shows naked men riding bikes and waving to a crowd that included kids. Jeez. Videos show off a group of naked men playing and rinsing themselves off alongside a fountain surrounded by kids.
Lovely.
So thankfully this is all blurred. But this is what the Toronto Pride Parade looked like. This is what the New York Pride Parade looks like. This is what the Washington Pride Parade looks like. Washington Dems silent on nude pride cyclists exposing genitalia to crowd, including kids and families. So state Democrats who were in attendance at the Seattle Pride Parade remained silent on whether they condone nude cyclists who's participated in the public pride parade sparked intense backlash online. The Pride Parade over the weekend sparked backlash over the inclusion of a fleet of nude male cyclists whose genitalia was on full display to attendees, including families with children. Several of the naked riders went out to wash off at a fountain. Oh, it was Seattle too.
Yeah.
It was Seattle and Toronto.
Several places.
In town where children were amongst...
There was also one in New York that was women. It was just women.
Oh. Yeah, that's...
So there's several.
Yeah, this is so perverted. And it was ridiculous. Like, I, of course, fairly active on Twitter. We have over 3,500 followers on there, and I usually engage fairly frequently with other people there. And the reaction online is truly reprehensible.
Yeah.
Like, you say, like, the people who post to be like, oh, like, this is so clearly a joke. And it's like, seriously, guys? This is like it's a joke that's saying, "Oh, we're coming for your children." And it's like, guess what? We already saw, what was it? 3 members of the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir that were child molesters. There was only like 100 members of that choir, tops.
And like we talked about before, something that I didn't know until I was looking into it. Several of the people featured in that video were convicted child molesters or sex offenders.
Yes.
Which was crazy because the whole shtick was like, "Oh, we're coming for your children." By the way, several of those people in that video
people that are coming
were
and converting your children,
pedophiles.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Oh, it's totally reprehensible that these,
Yes.
And then it's just like, okay. And then people are like, oh, it's clearly a joke. And I'm like, oh yeah, so it's totally fine that they're supportive of twerking half naked in front of little children. It's totally fine that they're promoting pornographic books in school. Like, I was showing the books that are available in school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I linked to an Action for Canada page, which was very informative. I could link it actually in the description to this video. And
Good.
This Action for Canada, it goes through each book and it shows screenshots of inappropriate images from each book. And I was like, look, this is a screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
This screenshot has men performing very inappropriate, like it has them performing anal.
Yep.
In this children's book. And I'm like, okay, why isn't that wrong? And he's like, well, it's showcasing love. And I'm like, you are a pervert.
No, he's a cultist.
Well, that too.
No, but this is the same thing that I said happened on that podcast with that lady from the Culture Path. This is what they do. I want people to understand this very simply. Here's how this works. They start with basically a begging the question fallacy. That is their starting point. That is their default. They can't move from it. Okay? Their starting point is my side is right, and I have to defend anything and everything that my side argues. So when it comes to when somebody in the conservative side says they're showing pornography in schools, they because they're starting with the basic premise that my side is the noble one, my side is the right, my side is the good, they have to defend it in whatever way they can. They cannot, they're basically not allowed to. Like, I will say this very specifically, they are not allowed, and they will never admit it, but they're all operating from the exact same MO. They have to defend it. They cannot, under any circumstances, ever admit that, okay, that's wrong, because then they're treated as heretics by their side. It's a cult. That's how Jehovah's Witnesses, that's how Seventh-day Adventists, that's how Scientologists, that's how they all operate. You cannot disagree with the teachings and the beliefs of the cult. So no matter how evil, how reprehensible, how outrageous, how obviously evil it is, you have to defend it at any cost, using any rhetoric, anything, and it doesn't matter. The goal is to defend it and never say sorry. And so this is why you have these conversations with people where you're just like, you're baffled. Like, how can you believe this and not, like, are you listening to yourself? Like, you really feel like you're talking to a crazy person. Did you see that? Okay, I don't know if you can pull it up. This has been making the rounds. It's that Senate hearing with the lady who's the new president of the Human Rights Campaign, and she was asked point blank by a senator, do you believe that there's any difference between men and women in sports? And her answer was so incredibly
this was Ted Cruz asking her.
No. Kennedy, Senator Kennedy was asking her, and then he then went to Riley Gaines, and Riley Gaines had one of the most amazing.
Oh, that happened too.
That was amazing. That was directly related. So if you can pull that up, that would be amazing, because that would really show what we're talking about. Okay. So for those of you again, the premise is, if you're part of the leftist cult, and this is why people call it a cult. It's not just a random name that we came up with, let's just find some random thing that we could accuse them of. Okay, this is an actual descriptive observation of how they operate. They operate like a cult. Okay, which means that they are not allowed to disagree with any teaching of the cult. And there's multiple examples of this that you can really name. One of my favorites was there was a black conservative convert who used to be big into BLM. Did some research. Candace Owens was the girl that he was trying to debunk, and he found himself being red pilled, and he was like, "Holy crap, I was wrong this whole time." And he talked about how the cult mindset. He's not allowed to ask questions. He's not allowed to question the teachings.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you found it.
I'm fairly certain I found it.
Okay, so just remember, the lady who's from the Human Rights Campaign. Remember, this is the biggest LGBT activist organization in the United States. This is
and I think in the world too.
I think this is the person in charge of that. Listen to her argue, and she argues like I will say she argues like somebody crazy. And what I mean that it's not derogatory. I'm saying her views are so disconnected from reality that it's almost like borderline crazy. One of the definitions of crazy is that you've lost grasp of reality. Okay, so this is how she talks, like somebody who has no grasp on reality and on real reality. Go ahead, Stephen.
Over a biological female?
Not as a definitive statement.
Give me an example. Well, no, I don't think. How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience, Ben? Male, female?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women. My experience, my husband, he swam at University of Kentucky as well. In terms of accolades and in terms of national ranking, I was a much better swimmer than him. He could kick my butt any day of the week without trying.
Women and some.
Yep.
Bam, bam, bam.
Crushed.
That is the leader of the president, the leader of the Human Rights Campaign.
Yep.
And if your leader is that like,
is that brainwashed?
That brainwash, it makes you realize that washes down there. That means everybody in the Human Rights Campaign they're not intellectually honest. They are ideologues. They have to follow the cult script. In other words.
Yeah. Also, if you want a very good, entertaining video to watch Ted Cruz grilling that lady. It is exceptionally entertaining.
I want to.
Because he's just like demolishes her, and she's just like. It's like
it's brutal. Like, okay, I'll give you a good example. Going back because this this interview was so bad. That lady that Tim Pool was interviewing, like in the Culture War podcast, he actually took the book Gender Queer. He's like, have you heard of this book? She's like, I've heard of it. He's like going through it, and he's like, I can't even show this. I can't even point this at the camera. We would get like the stream would be taken down by YouTube because it's so incredibly graphic. And then he was saying like, here, this book has depictions of like oral sex, of all sorts of like kink. And it's true. It's kink. It's not sexuality. It's kink. And immediately she started from her default that my side is showing this thing to kids. Therefore, my side is good. And therefore, I have to defend it at any cost. So immediately she jumped into all sorts of like rhetorical tricks. She tried to say, did you know that sexual education helps prevent violence against kids? And then she's like, oh, but like that's not pornography. That's just sex education. And then she went through everything. And you're just watching her in real time. You're like you cannot be this dumb. You're like you cannot be. So you have to basically conclude that no, she's not ignorant. She's not dumb. She is intentionally defending something that is indefensible. And she kept going back to the attack of, oh, well, I'm against censorship. This is about censorship. You're pro censorship. That was her line of attack going through. This is why, like, when people say that these people are a cult, it's not that it's not an empty accusation like calling someone a Nazi. Like people on the left call us and people on the conservative right. Nazis.
Yeah,
But there's
fascists all
no
the time.
truth to that.
Well, actually,
There's
no.
no-
I'll actually go back. So another one of these arguments that I was having. So they were saying a comparison, going to the "we're here, we're queer, coming for your children." It's like, oh, this is a joke. It's like when Matt Walsh calls himself a theocratic fascist, and I'm like, okay, there's a clear difference. Is that Matt has nothing to do with fascism? Yes, he would love a theocracy. It'd be funny. It would actually probably be very good for society, but it's not going to happen. It's entirely a joke. Whereas, of course, when you talk about the left and what they're actually pushing for, it's like we talked about a Minnesota lawmaker pushing to destigmatize pedophilia.
Yep.
We talk about drag queens twerking in thongs in front of children. We talk about
saying,
exceptionally inappropriate books. It's like this is being pushed by whom? By the exact same people who are marching in that parade. So when they're saying, yes, we're coming for your children, they mean it. They just mean it in a different way that a lot of people take it. They think that, oh, they're not really coming and they're not going to be like coming and taking people's children away. It's like, no, they're coming to pervert. They're coming to twist. They're coming to brainwash, and they're making your children susceptible to a social contagion. And that is the reason why 10% of Gen Z identifies as LGBTQ, which is 100% increase over my generation. And my generation is 100% increase over the generation before mine. This is a social contagion, and it is getting exponentially worse.
Well, I mean, really, it's not hard because children are easily
Manipulated.
Easily duped. Like you can, you've told me stories about little fun little, lies, but little stories you
the
tell
games
your
that
kid.
I play with my kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's not hard to convince a kid of something that's absurd because kids don't know any better. I can tell like a kid that Santa Claus is actually also a vampire.
Yes.
He's like, it's great that he brings you gifts, but also he gets a little bloodthirsty. So make sure you keep some garlic in your room because if he gets a little thirsty, he might come.
Let's do a quick test. What is the ratio? What percentage of children believe in Santa?
Oh, right now?
Yes.
I don't know, kids under 10, I'm guessing, right? Am I guessing?
Okay, let's just 5-year-olds, which is what they say. What they say is actually a very common age for starting social conditioning, for starting social transitioning. More than 80% of 5-year-olds are convinced that Santa exists.
Yep.
If you can convince 80% of 5-year-olds that a magic man flies across the world on Christmas Eve, delivering presents to every single child in the world, then you think you can convince them that they're another gender? You think you can convince them that they are something that they are not? This is the power of abusive parents. This is the power of teachers who are drunk on their own influence.
Yeah.
This is why, I went to a protest on Saturday. It was supported by YYC Muslims. I don't support Islam in every way, but I'm 100% behind them in this.
Yeah.
Teaching this to children is abhorrent.
It's a mutual cause, and they have a little bit more. They're a little more insulated than Christians are. Christians are open. It's open season on Christians.
Oh yeah.
But Muslims have a little more insulation.
It was actually interesting because the last protest that we heard of, which was a few weeks ago, there was maybe about 15 or 20 counter protesters. This one, there was about 75 counter protesters, and they were actually they were going at their critique was very much how you and I would critique those who are pushing for Sharia.
Okay.
Because I'm like, okay, these Muslims, some of them might privately support Sharia, but they're not pushing for Sharia here. Whereas all of the LGBTQ, when they were pushing back against this protest, it was like, oh, you just want to bring your backwards values of the Middle East here. And I'm like, oh, some might call that Islamophobic.
Yeah, or racist.
And it was actually funny because one of the speakers for the Muslims was like, oh, you call us homophobic today, but you'll call us racist tomorrow because you guys don't make any sense. I'm like, yep.
Yeah. I think there's two things about the movement right now. People, okay, there's a couple of misconceptions that people have of how these work. Okay, one, people believe, and I'm talking about regular people who are just maybe casually paying attention, people who are not like generally very political. They believe that the LGBT thing, that this is an organic grassroots movement, but it's not. That's the myth number one. That this was just organically kind of like just came up, from the ground up, popular support and all that. It's not. It's top down. So that's number one. It's a myth to believe that this was organic and they just kind of gained everyone's hearts. Like, no, it's being pushed from the top down. Okay. The second thing is that people have this default view that a second myth is that the people in charge, the politicians and the people who have power, that all of these things that are happening, all of these attacks and all these bad outcomes, that they're it's basically incompetence that's leading to these outcomes. It's not. It's malevolence. Okay. The people, for example, like right now, the fact that these cities, like all these cities all across like North America, from Toronto to Seattle to New York, that they're allowing legitimately obscenities in streets, that is not incompetence. That's not like, oh, we're just too dumb to realize that this is bad for society. It's no, they know full well what they're doing. They know full well what these people are capable and what they're, and that there's children there, and they do it on purpose because they're ideologues and they operate from ideology, not from pragmatism or practicality. Okay, a good example is right now. It drives me nuts. I go everywhere I go right now. We went to a bubble tea place. We went to Starbucks. We went to a restaurant downtown and all that. Every single straw is paper. And I'm just like, this is so stupid.
It is.
Why are we using paper when we know that paper doesn't work? I don't know if you heard, Stephen. There was even somebody who said there was a grocery chain. I don't know which one. Didn't have to look into it, but there was a grocery chain in Alberta that started using compostable plastic bags.
Yep.
Okay, these are bags that biodegrade. And then they found out that the Canadian government basically said, like, oh yeah, no, you can't sell those either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what are you talking about? You're like, the whole idea is that, the whole selling point, the whole claim is that, this is about like making sure we don't pollute with plastic and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, well, you just proved that it isn't, and it's not, because the lie is that, we're helping the environment. No. Your goal is you want to make oil the big boogeyman bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing everything that they can. It's ideology first, and who cares about the consequences? They really don't care about the consequences and how it hurts people. That's how they operate. Sorry.
Okay. No, just keep talking. I'm just
okay.
I need to go to the bathroom. Right back.
I'm gonna keep ranting while Steven does his thing. Okay. All right. So the problem is that most of North America right now, we're basically under a cultural takeover, and this is for those who are like, really like they look heavily into political. They do their due diligence. You do your research and all that. This is not difficult to understand. It is a cultural takeover, and you know it because of how they operate. But for most of the regular public, but I talk to regular people who are not political, who don't constantly look into it, they legitimately don't know what's going on. They just think like, I guess it's okay. Like they're putting pride flags everywhere, and like it's like sunshiny and happy and go lucky, and it's for a good cause. We're helping these poor, innocent, poor unfortunate souls to get their place in the world, not realizing that these poor unfortunate souls are really the people with an unimaginable amount of power, who have basically the power to get you fired and like basically removed from society, from polite society. These are the powerful. I was talking to somebody this week, and I was saying, like, it's interesting because I studied, like, obviously, like World War II history, and one of the things you do is when you study, obviously, the rise of Germany, how the Nazi regime kind of took over. It's amazing that in Germany, obviously, they had the German flag, like in Weimar Germany, all the way up until 1930. And then when the Nazi Party was elected in 1933, the Nazi flags started being flown everywhere. Like it was basically they had a million of them everywhere. Every street corner, every parade had them, like, going up and down. The Soviets were the same. Every Soviet country, from the Soviet Union, USSR, to Cuba, to every like major China, their flags become ideological, right? The ideology is colonial, it's imperial. It basically comes in, and it always starts slow, but then they ramp it up. They always ramp it up. Eventually, it's going to be where you are not permitted by law and by threat of the gun to disagree or disapprove of the ideology. People don't realize that we are in the midst of a cultural takeover. This is a coup. It's a very slow but very intentional coup where they are trying to take over all of the positions of power, so that once they've consolidated power, then they want to take over. And this is what people don't realize, that we're being taken over by people who are not who pretend to play nice until they don't have to. And once they don't have to, they will have no problem getting rid of anybody who is considered an enemy of the state. And
Yep.
and this is all by design. So
Well, speaking of getting rid of what they would call enemies of the state, let's switch a little bit. Let's talk about this biology professor.
no.
So from Just the News, biology professor said he was fired for teaching science of male and female. He told students he was a pastor on the side, but never shared personal opinions in class. Biologists warned progressivism newfound grave threat to their work. So Johnson Varkey has 20 years under his belt for teach. He has taught for 20 years teaching anatomy and physiology at St. Philip's College, part of the Alamo Community College District of Texas. 19 years and 1,500 students into his teaching, he says few of them became visibly offended by his textbook lessons on the biology of male and female. St. Philip's fired Varkey for violating the faculty code of professional ethics based on several reports that he committed religious preaching, discriminatory comments about homosexuals and transgender individuals, anti-abortion rhetoric, and misogynistic banter, according to a January 27th memo of his termination of employment and contract. First Liberty Institute is representing the adjunct biology professor, demanding his reinstatement and written acknowledgement from St. Philip's and Alamo that his firing violated the First Amendment. Preposterous the college would fire Varkey for teaching biology, basic, widely accepted biology, for 2 decades, despite his exemplary performance reviews. In their evaluation attached in this exhibit shows he exceeds expectations in each category, but now that cultural elites are at odds with these ideas, the school no longer supports professors who teach them. So essentially what happened, and I was listening to kind of exactly what happened, and they essentially said that he said that according to genetics, there's only 2 sexes, male and female, and it's only determined by X and Y. Like, not the kind of superfluous topic of gender, but sex. There's only 2 sexes, and it's determined by, and that caused, I believe it was 15 students to walk out. And then they reported him saying that he was saying all these things, but a lot of what he didn't say any of them in class. It was simply that because he was an adjunct pastor at one of the local churches, they took excerpts from his sermons and said, oh yes, like he has these beliefs. He doesn't say them in class, but he has them. And he says there's only 2 sexes. And so he has to be fired.
Wrong thing.
No, it's totally wrong thing. And like, this isn't just because normally they'll kind of push this. Oh, like you can't say there's only 2 genders. You can only say that there's 2 sexes because that's biology, because it's X and Y. It's like, well, now they're going even further. Now you can't even say there's 2 sexes because it's like, no, you have to include intersexes and official sex. Oh, no, you have to include our like, we're not just genders anymore.
Yeah, it's
You have to include our delusions. You have to include our manipulations of reality, and you have to say with full assurance that these are part of your genetics and that this is part of your biology and this is ingrained into your being. You can't just say that this is some mental condition. You can't say, like, I actually got, like, even on Elon Musk's Twitter, I got a 24-hour suspension on Twitter for saying that transgenderism is a mental illness.
It is.
I know, but I got a 24-hour ban on Twitter for saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just adding on to the wrong thing.
It's a concept called soft totalitarianism.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know, there's a book called "Live Not by Lies." Rod Dreher. I want to read it, and I think a lot of people should read it. He basically documents how the Soviet Union and a lot of other communist governments in the past, how they used psyops to try to get their society complacent and willing to go along with whatever they want. So the basic premise is, if you think about the movie Bugs Life, okay, it's like, way back when Pixar was actually good. The premise of Bugs Life was the grasshoppers, who were basically terrorizing them and taking their food. They basically depended on the ignorance and the complicity of the ants, because they were outnumbered 100 to 1, and they knew that if the ants did not go along with what they said, that the ants could very easily overwhelm them. It wasn't even close. It was like they were absolutely going to be unable to control them. This is why I think somebody said this before. It's not that the real battle is not the left versus right. It's not the conservative versus liberal. It's the few versus the many. And I was like, I think that's very accurate. I think that's actually a good way of putting it, because the few are the few people in really positions of power, and obviously the minority, which is the small collection of people who are considered allies or part of the LGBT rainbow, versus the majority, which are most people who do not agree with what's going on in society. And in order to get people to get along, that's always the problem with communism. How do you get everyone to basically go along and not fight back? And so communists basically realize we have to. The only way to get people to go along with our craziness is you have to basically tame them like horses. You have to break their spirit so that they're willing to do whatever we tell them to. And that process is called demoralization. You have to demoralize regular people into basically breaking, get them to basically never want to fight back. We're like, yeah, what's the hopeless point?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have methods of that. One of them is they want to get free speech, because free speech completely and totally obliterates their ability to control you. But most importantly, they need to demoralize you, and the way they do that is through soft totalitarianism, which is basically they don't
Yep.
directly send you to the gulag. They just make life so difficult for you if you don't comply. And so they basically want to make it, well, you could fight back, but we're going to make your life a living hell. We're going to take away your ability
We're
to
going to make
work.
sure that you
We're going
can't.
to starve you. We're going to make everyone hate you, all this kind of stuff. We're basically going to make it really difficult for you to live a normal life, if you dissent, essentially. And so they basically incentivize conformity. And so that's what they do. This is how this works. That professor is right. Okay? But that's missing the point. The point is they want to basically, like the Pavlov's dog, they want to reinforce the idea that, oh, you have to believe in the absurd. You have to believe in the absurd. The absurd is true. No, there's 5 lights, not 4. There's 5 lights. You have to basically lie, because they know that once you're willing to lie, you're willing to speak a lie, then you're never gonna be able to oppose something that's not true. That's the point. Okay, but if you're a reasonable, rational person, I'm telling you, that is not the route to go. Yes, it's the easier, but it's not the better one. And it's like you're either going to suffer now or you're going to suffer. The suffering later is going to be worse, but you can at least avoid the pain now. Or the pain now will be, sure, it will be tough, but it'll be much easier to fight earlier than it will be to fight later. once they've consolidated power. So yeah, this professor is a cautionary tale. This is how they work. They try to make examples of people.
I am very glad that he is fighting it. I really, really hope he wins.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, thankfully, he's fighting it in Texas, so there is a chance. It's certainly better than fighting it in New York or in Washington.
Well, one question is this place, is this in Austin? Because if it's in Austin, then he's in trouble. Because I've heard
it's part of the
Austin
Alamo Community College District.
Let me find out. So it's called the St. Philip's College. Okay, I'll find out. St. Philip's College, Texas. Because if it's in Texas, he's in trouble. Texas is an absolutely dangerous.
You mean Austin?
Austin, Texas. Sorry, Austin, Texas is an anomaly among Texas in that they are. Oh, San Antonio. Okay, so he might be okay.
Yeah, he might be okay.
Yeah, he might be okay.
Okay. All right.
What's his name? Alex Jones was prosecuted in Austin, and he got a
Mm-hmm.
terrible
billions.
judge and all that. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Speaking of some actually good news, let's talk about a very interesting story related to this whole kind of gender and sexuality. Let's talk about Planned Parenthood in Saskatchewan.
The arbiters of all that is good and more.
I don't think nobody can say that with a straight face.
No, I just can't.
Planned Parenthood is shocked after being suspended from Saskatchewan schools. Good for Saskatchewan. Yeah, clap for Saskatchewan.
Amen, brother. Amen.
So, Planned Parenthood's Saskatchewan Education Minister Dustin Duncan's decision to suspend the organization from presenting in schools on Thursday came as a surprise. We were mostly surprised, said Planned Parenthood Executive Director Julian Witherspoon. This was a decision that was made without contacting us about our programs or any of the resources or services that we provide. It was just so disappointing. The minister's decision.
Translation: we can't
we can't propagandize to the kids anymore.
We can't propagandize and spout our BS about how we're noble and wonderful and lie to them about what they're.
Oh yeah, the ministry's decision came after a presentation with sexual material occurred at a high school in Lumsden, Saskatchewan, according to Duncan. Material consisted of graphic sexual vocabulary through letters of the alphabet. Planned Parenthood did not present the material to the classroom, but one student obtained a pamphlet separately. So it wasn't a part of what we were there to present, but when we bring secondary resources with it, none of the educators know everything, and oftentimes we have youth come up to ask after and ask us about their own experience or things that they are really curious about, and it's nice to have a box of things we can rifle through so they can get connected with the information that they need. So it was like, oh yeah, no, we just had a pamphlet. We didn't present it, but we just had it to hand it out to the kids.
Just happened to be there.
So the pamphlet titled Sex from A to Z describes itself as a set of cards intended for gay, bi, and queer young people. It's a fun and accessible resource that facilitates humorous and frank discussion amongst young people about sexuality and HIV and STI prevention. It can also be used by service providers as a discussion tool in workshops and training sessions.
Translation: kink.
Yeah. Planned Parenthood recognized the pamphlet had not been approved by the school prior to bringing it into the building, regardless of it not being formally presented. Normally, we wouldn't have information in the teachers hadn't been familiar with, and so going forward is better communication that we'll be having. See, we already know that organizations like Planned Parenthood and GSAs, they're only reacting like this because they've been caught. They never contact the school. They never contact the parents. They bring all this stuff in because it's all just extra information for the students. We have to make sure the students are informed about all these terrible, terrible things.
By the way, this is global news, so you can tell they're playing.
They're trying to.
They're basically trying to play cover.
Here, what I'm going to do, because some of these things, if we show them on the show, we might get banned from Twitch. So I'm going to switch to commentary, and I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look up the pamphlet titled Sex from A to Z. And I'm fairly certain that the letter F is what the crazy reaction was. Because it was horrifying.
I don't know if I could. Yeah, I'm looking for the content. I don't know if it's here.
Maybe it's on Twitter.
Maybe.
It might be on Twitter.
Might be. Yeah. By the way, a lot of times these things are like you have to go out of your way to try to.
Okay, well, there's an article from True North. Do they have a... Okay, they have some pictures. Here it is. Billboard Chris. So I'm not going to show you the pictures, but this is what it's like. So from Billboard Chris, he showed a picture from the Sextus A to Z.
Chris is amazing.
Yeah, so half and half. So take this with a grain of salt. I'm just reading off of this. I'm not trying to be explicit or profane. Half and half. When someone sucks your dick and then your ass, it's nice to split the attention 50-50. That way your butt won't get some sort of inferiority complex.
Yeah, and by the way, doing that, there are countless health risks and dangers that you do with that. This is why people argue this is kink, not sexual education. You're teaching kids, and kink can be like one of the things. I was shocked that one of the books, I think it's like This Book is Gay. I think it was that people mentioned. This Book is Gay. One of the things that they teach in that book is how to incorporate
how to contact
poop in your sex play.
It wasn't it was that too. But there was also a part of This Book is Gay that tells children on how to connect with adult men on gay dating sites.
Yeah. And by the way, the lady who was on that show with Tim Pool was defending that.
Yep.
She was defending it. She's like,
it's absolutely reprehensible.
What's wrong with that? Why would it be bad to
so
let kids?
I will link. So for those who want, I'll link the kind of these images. There's another one.
No, what was the other thing that you said that you were going to link for?
Oh, the True North story.
No. It was earlier in the show. There was a connection. I'll have to go back and look. But some resource that you were mentioning.
Oh, the video, the video from Billboard Chris. The video, but we're coming for your children.
No,
it wasn't that.
I don't remember. It was a resource that you said, like, I'll link it. Maybe no.
Okay.
Anyways, go on.
Yeah, and then of course the second one, which is also kind of really repugnant. Why yellow and brown showers? Yes, pissing and crapping on your partner. If you're going to experiment with bodily fluids, best you keep them on the outside of your body to reduce risks of parasites or viruses. Yeah, this is totally fine to hand out to children in schools.
Yeah. By the way, one thing I remember, like I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about something. I never heard of it before, but I was like, this is weird. They were talking in this sex ed lesson. They were talking about the idea of that men can essentially through their anus stimulate their prostate, and apparently it's a way of getting their getting an orgasm that's better than whatever. But what they found is that this is incredibly dangerous because you're basically going to cause harm to your rectum. And the kids don't know this. You're glamorizing something that is incredibly risky. This is risky sexual behavior, and it should have. It's almost like too risky to. You could actually make a case that this should not even be promoted among adults.
Yeah,
much less children.
Okay, here.
Oh,
F.
Bad. Ugh.
This is the last one I'm gonna do. But how is this what? I've never even heard of this. This is.
Yes.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Felching. The act of
nasty.
sucking semen from your partner's bum.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Mm-hmm.
It's and then the way they describe it, nothing says loving like semen fresh from the oven. Really?
Yeah. That is deviant sexual.
That is just really, really messed up.
Mm-hmm. And you notice how Global News didn't even.
No, they didn't. Global News. So shame on you, Global, for not showcasing a single one of these. Not actually providing the news. They didn't. If you actually go through the article, it doesn't give a single example of one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh no, it was just like, oh yes, like we didn't talk about it with the teachers, but we probably should have talked about it with the teachers. If the teacher had known, then it would have been totally appropriate. It's like, no, the teachers, if you had actually told the teachers, if you had told the parents that there was going to be F, H, and Y taught to not even high schoolers, but junior high students.
Unbelievable.
Like, if I had my child in that school and I was told that that's what they were going to be handing out to students, like pitchforks and torches, run them out of town.
You have to remember too that okay, on the most basic level, even if like let's just for humor's sake, let's just assume even if it was done innocently with the best of intentions, even if that was the case, which was not, you have to remember a child, like, okay, like there's countless stories of children, like boys who are like 8 or 9 or 10, who are exposed to pornography, like particularly like playboys early in life, and then you hear stories of them having all sorts of sexual damage because they were exposed to sexual things or sexual items way too early. Now they have sexual all sorts of sexual psychological sexual conditions and damage and all that kind of stuff that they basically have to like completely and totally undo in their 20s and 30s. Sexual dysfunction, sexual deviance behavior, all sorts of things that they can always trace down to being exposed to sexually graphic material way too young. And this is like soft nowadays. Playboy was very soft. That's just naked women. And you can imagine that much damage
Comparatively.
by that, right? And so there's a reason why we like people like these benevolent people. They argue that, oh, this is about sex education, which is good because it helps protect kids. I'm like, no. This is super dangerous because we all know that children who are exposed to things that are not age appropriate, things like this can scar them for life and can damage them for life and can cause all sorts of huge problems later on in life. Boys who start pornography like way too young,
it's going to mess up their future relationships,
problems and issues later in life. But here's the problem. Here's the thing. The people who are pushing this know this. Again, don't assume innocence or like or incompetence, where obviously malevolence is much more easier. These people know.
Well, that's the opposite of the quote. But at this point, so you're not supposed to assume malevolence when it could be easily attributed to incompetence. But at this point,
it's backwards.
Well, but
I think nowadays when I see this,
there are certain organizations which it's like, okay, we can't just assume incompetence anymore. Like, you look at Planned Parenthood, like, and even like nowadays, you look at the FBI. It's like, this is no longer something where we can assume incompetence. Planned Parenthood is, I would say, one of, if not the most evil organizations in North America. They're involved in basically every deviant, perverted, and, dare I say, genocidal thing that happens in North America.
They were caught years ago, like selling
2015, selling baby parts.
That's right.
And they, because of the power that they have in government, like you look at the places in which he was charged. Like, they never, in Texas, they didn't investigate Planned Parenthood. In California, they didn't investigate Planned Parenthood. That's because the AGs or the assistant AGs in these states were bought off by Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood either funded their re-election campaigns or Planned Parenthood openly had them on, I think the one in Texas, the assistant attorney general in Texas sat on the board of directors for the Planned Parenthood in that region. It's like, oh yeah, that's totally normal.
Makes
when
sense.
You're investigating a company. And then, of course, lo and behold, the attorney general who charged David Delayden, do you know who it was?
That was Kamala Harris.
Yeah, it was Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris?
Oh yeah, she's totally nonpartisan. No.
it is. It's the problem is like, okay, so I think somebody said it really well. I think it was Charlie Kirk was saying this. He said that in the past the number one dodge that people would have against these the most obvious egregious examples of indefensible conduct is that either it's not happening or it's super rare. Okay, that was the two most common. So when people like you and I, when we bring up like drag shows, particularly the really egregious ones where they're doing horribly inappropriate things, they're like it doesn't happen, which you can disprove by showing them videos of the actual thing and it did happen, and then immediately they say like, well, it's just a rare occurrence, so like doesn't happen very often, right? Same thing when the San Francisco Gay Men's Choir came out, they basically said, oh, it's not happening, or they're like, oh, it's just a joke, so they try to like pretend like it's not happening, or it's barely happening. But then now with them saying this in the New York Pride Parade, with them doing it in Target, with them justifying these kind of behaviors everywhere, now it's no longer they're not trying to hide it anymore. It is now out in the open. It is very difficult for them to pretend it's not happening. So now they have to go to phase two. And Stephen, what is the phase two of their modus operandi when they can't deny it anymore? What do they do next?
Oh, when they can't deny it, then they say, then once they can't deny it, then they say, oh, it's happening, but it's only in a little way. It's only happening a little bit.
Well, that's the barely like that.
That's the barely,
right?
And then the third stage.
Yes, third stage.
The third stage is, oh, it's happening, but it's a good thing.
Yes, right. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We are at the third stage of this process, which is basically, okay, they can't deny it anymore. So they say, oh, yeah, it is happening. And, oh, yeah, it's happening a lot. But now they're in the, oh, it's good. It's a good thing that it's happening. And so that's where we're at. Remember, it's undeniable that there's like, males competing in female sports. It's undeniable. That's no longer something you can refute, and you can't even say it's small because it's happening everywhere. Now you have to basically argue that, oh, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. So just watch for that. This is how they operate. This is what they're doing. And of course, this professor, like we said, the story recently, the professor fired for saying truth, but that's a good thing because truth is harmful and mean and intolerant and all that. And Planned Parenthood can pretend like, oh, this didn't happen, or like, oh, they're basically playing dumb. That's their strategy in this specific story. They're playing dumb. They're pretending like, oh, we didn't know. Or like, oh, we have no control over what these persons bring individually, and they're basically trying to argue that oh, whoops, we had no way of playing, right? But again, this is just one of the few times that they got caught. How many times do you think that this stuff kind of happens, caught, or they don't get called out by the public, right? How many schools have had parents that complain, but their complaints are basically drowned out or shouted down, or the parents are too scared to actually make a complaint, right?
Or you have the FBI accuse them simply for protesting of being linked in with domestic terrorists and investigated as such.
Oh, of course they are.
Yes. Impeach Garland. Impeach Garland. But we do have to kind of finish off the show because we did say that this was going to be a shorter show. It's not going to be.
Go for it.
So let's finish off with this final story. This one I don't think you've seen.
I have not.
So this is a video, and the video is very self-explanatory. So just watch it and be amazed.
Be horrified. You got the switch on.
He was arrested and
Sorry,
I just noticed. I was just saying you have to switch on the live stream, but you did.
Yeah. Okay, so let's watch. So this is. If they leave out any details, then I'll let you know.
he was arrested and charged with simple assault and terroristic threats. Following his arrest, he was transported to the DeKalb County Jail.
Let's go to the squad car, please. Okay, that way.
Why is it happening? I'm being arrested?
Yes.
For what? For what? I'll be with you in just 1 second. Mm-hmm. just wanted to leave this alone.
But still, I will need for you to fill out a statement for him.
I don't want him arrested. I just want him to leave this
I
alone.
know, but he had a weapon on him, and it was terrorist threats.
Brandishing is not a crime with a knife. Brandishing is only a crime for a gun.
Terrorist threats, though, sir.
Because he said die to me?
Because he said
and had his knife out?
What, all that was done. The threats, everything.
His reaction.
Let me get a statement.
If I thought you were going to arrest him, I wouldn't call. I just wanted to leave this alone.
I understand, but we still have a job to do.
Now he's gonna think I'm doing this because I'm white and he's black, or he's homeless and I'm not. I don't want that.
But did he do what he did?
Yeah, but I don't want him thinking I did it because he's in whatever situation he's in. I just want him to leave us alone.
I doubt that.
Wow.
I'll be right back, okay?
Wow.
Yep. Wow. So, full situation. This guy was yelling at this couple with a knife, saying that he was going to kill them, screaming, "Die!" And then they called the police on him, and the police arrested him because he was issuing threats, and he was brandishing a knife, and he was generally being a public nuisance. Because, you know, it's not appropriate to go up to people with a knife and scream, "Die!" And this guy reacts in such a way that he's like, it's not about, I'm sad that he's going to jail because, like, I wish that he could be rehabilitated on the street. No. I'm upset. This man was upset because he didn't want the homeless, violent person to think that he was a racist for having him arrested for screaming "die" and threatening him and his partner. This is the level of self-guilt. Because they don't want to be, I don't think it was entirely focused on this person was going to prison. I think it was because he didn't want people, if the story came out, he didn't want his name associated with, I'm a white man, he's a black man, I called the police on him because I think because I'm racist. He was so afraid of being called racist. He was so afraid of being associated with racism or even classism, because he, of course, connects homelessness in the very next statement. Oh, I don't want him to think that I'm having him arrested because he's homeless. It has nothing to do with him being black. It has nothing to do with him being homeless. If he was black and homeless and he was going around the park collecting bottles, who cares? You don't call the cops on that. You call the cops on someone because they are a threat to the public, which this person was.
Yep.
And yet this individual was like, "Oh no, I can't believe you actually arrested him for him threatening me."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was kind of curious. I was like, there's a word that came to mind, and I'm like, I wonder if that word would apply to this man. And I looked up a couple dictionaries. Do me a favor, do a live kind of search.
Yes, of course.
Look up the word. So go on the dictionary, and just on Google, and look up the word CUCK. And see what comes up.
This could be inappropriate.
I know, that's why I'm spelling it and not saying it.
Okay.
But
so
I think it might actually fit. Look up the dictionary definition.
This is the dictionary definition.
Which dictionary?
This is Oxford Languages.
Okay, so what does that word mean?
So this word, CUCK, a weak or servile man, often used as a contemptuous for the men with moderate or progressive political views. We act like a bunch of cooks who let them take what they want.
Yes.
And of course, then you could refer to it as a short form of cuckold, which was not what we're referring to here.
No, that's a different. I looked at what too. That's totally different.
It is totally different. That's entirely
That's life. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's often it's a little.
Look up different dictionaries. They all have. I think they all look up. Maybe go scroll down. I think
Urban Dictionary. Not that one.
That one?
Urban Dictionary. Urban Dictionary is
No.
entirely related to cuckold.
No,
So let's do the Cambridge
dictionary.com.
Press. Let's do the Cambridge Press.
Yeah. Okay.
An insulting word for a weak man, especially by people on the extreme right of politics, refer to men with politically liberal views.
I think this fits.
Yep.
Am I right?
Well, aside from extreme right, because it's basically anybody that's not like completely brainwashed by the cult.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, oh yeah, it's an insult from the extreme right. But it's
The
like,
reason
this
is
guy he fits the word by every possible definition. He starts crying.
Yes.
Because he's so plugged into the mantra. And he's like, I just wanted him to leave me alone. It's like,
Yes.
do you know what happens if he actually left you alone? If all the police did was be like, sir, you have to leave these people alone. So we're just going to put you in a different part of the park, and then we're going to re-release you in your current state.
Yeah, that would be like something from, what do you call it, Freedom Tunes. Where it's like somebody's stabbing you, like a white guy, and be like, sir, he's stabbing you. Like, do you want me to stop him? Like, no, I'm just glad he doesn't become racist.
Oh, yeah.
Racist.
Well, it was like that Freedom Tunes video about the subway. It's like, why do conservatives think that the train is a form of getting from point A to point B? Why can't they realize that this is a valid outlet for those with mental illness? It's like, because it's not. Because you can't have a valid outlet for mental illness in a public space.
True.
A public park where he's threatening people with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
By any rational level, the cops had a duty and they fulfilled it to arrest him. And guess what? Both the cops that arrested him were black.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not racist.
No, but the problem is that this is this is cult indoctrination.
Oh, it is.
They want to make you believe that you are the big bad baddie, right? They want to make you believe. This is by the way, every major like nation that tried to that try to dehumanize anybody, they always did this. They always had a group of people that they wanted to convince the people themselves that they were like less than human or wear them down, and they tried to make them feel like they're scapegoats. It's the scapegoat approach, right? The Japanese did this with the Chinese. They constantly tried to make the Chinese feel like they were inferior. The Japanese felt like they were superior beings, and that that they were victims really of the Chinese overlords. This happened in it's even happening right now in South Africa. South Africa right now, the white people in that country are being mercilessly abused and totally mistreated by the majority black population, and they're being absolutely mistreated. But but the black population, they're the good guys. They're the moral ones, and so everything that they do, no matter how evil or reprehensible, is acceptable, right? And this happens everywhere. Everywhere that you go, any country that tries to create a scapegoat, they do this. And unfortunately, this guy is clearly a white liberal, because he has bought into the cult indoctrination that he is guilty of being evil merely because of the color of his skin, which is inherently the definition of racism. But they don't work by that anymore. Now, racism only applies to those who are that only applies to those who are in the negative group. But if you're part of the positive group, which is the African American community, well, they can't be racist. Guess what? People in the South, in antebellum South, before the Civil War, they didn't believe they were racist. They thought they were perfectly fine. They thought they were morally justified in their mistreatment and abuse of African Americans. It's the banality of evil. They don't believe that they're doing evil. They believe in good, and that they're following what is the right way to do things, right? They always do this. So the fact that this guy, you really should feel bad for this guy, not because he's right, but because this guy has been so horribly, indoctrinated, brainwashed into believing that he is inherently racist, that this is the outcome. It's like watching somebody who comes out of Scientology. It's like, yeah, they signed up for it, but once they're in that cult and they've been brainwashed and they don't know any better and they believe that they're horrible and evil because they turned against their former cult members, and now they feel that they're horrible because like they betrayed the people that they love. It's the cult. Again, cult just reams in every story that we're going through. It's crazy. All right, so we have any more stories? Or are we done with
No.
that? That's it. That works, buddy.
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to sign us out.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. Thank you for those who watched, those who listened, and those who temporarily participated in the chat.
Mhm.
It's a Tuesday. I get it.
It's
It's coming up to a long weekend. I get it.
True.
We're
You
going to be
get it.
back on Thursday for our regularly scheduled live stream. I'm going to try to switch it up this time. I'm going to kind of reset the system on Restream so that we're streaming onto Twitch and Kick.
Woo!
And hopefully that works out.
Mhm.
Restream has been acting weird lately, so no guarantees, but we hope.
You have to play around with it. One thing I will mention, and by the way, I really apologize if this is the case. If it turns out that my niece's grad is on Thursday,
Okay.
I might not be here.
'Kay.
Just because that's the whole reason
It is what
we
it
came
is.
here.
It is what it is.
It is. I want to be here, but obviously, if
Yeah.
there's things that commitments that I have to do like that,
100%.
then yeah. Okay, so I'll let you guys know.
Yep. I get it.
By the way, I will say it was pretty awesome that the interviews that you did on the weekend. I think you've gotten over 2,000 views, right?
Close to it, yeah.
YouTube. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh, hold on. Conquer Worm. Biden a gaff where he said he saw. Oh, yeah. Where he was talking. What was that? Talking with the Indian Prime Minister? Where he
What'd
said
he
it was
say?
like, he's like, haha. Not like I sold plenty of state secrets. Haha. And it's like, oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Mr. Gaff,
No excuse.
the ultimate Gaff boy.
Yes. Fire Dan. No
boy.
excuses. All right. If you are watching on. If you want to check out our other platforms, you can check us out on BitChute and Rumble. And then, of course, our non-sensitive content, our sensitive content, you can check out on YouTube. Then if you want to check out our text platforms, you can check out our website at theshrewddudes.com or on Facebook, Getter, and, of course, on Twitter, where I am very active and engage a lot. So I'm always
way,
in some sort of Twitter spat.
Definitely spread or share that video of the Leave Our Kids Alone protest, because we're so close to being 2,000.
We are pretty close.
We're like 1.9 thousand.
Here, I'll check the...
I just checked that it's 1.9. Unless you have more specific numbers.
Yeah, because like I can get the YouTube algorithms because I have access to the account. And so they typically tell me how the videos are going. So, Studio Analytics.
I love how many comments you've gotten too on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, crap ton of comments. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty dope. No, we actually got a bit of a... Oh, wait, no, that's... Hold on. We have 1,991.
1,991?
Yep.
So we're a ways. But, I mean,
it says we have... Okay, nope. It's just updated. We just passed 2,000.
Really?
2001 via video analytics, but they haven't published it yet.
Oh, wow.
So in the video analytics, you get to see like probably
Real
an
time?
hour. Yeah, an hour before it's officially published.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, majority of the views came from like YouTube home. So
that makes sense because, again, because it's one of those things that a lot of people were probably searching for. And so because people were landing on that, it probably started getting a lot of traffic. So,
but it did get 83 hours of watch time. So
that's cool.
For a 7-minute video, that's pretty good.
That was like the other one, that big one that we had. That girl was trampling on a
that one got 5,500. It's funny because we deleted all those douche of the week videos. And so people are like, oh, like your channel has no views. And I'm like, yes, because we deleted all the videos that had views.
Yeah, it makes sense.
We deleted like 20,000 views.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Those were some of the videos that were getting the most traffic.
Mm-hmm.
But again, at the same time, I'm okay with that because, to be fair,
it was good.
I think it was a good
point.
point. Yeah, it was good. I'm glad that they got a lot of views and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, like, it got us subs, and that subs pushes you to the when you have a video and you have subscribers, and then if people watch it, then typically goes pretty quickly to the top of the homepage. Anyways,
very true. Okay.
So we will see you on Thursday. Hopefully, might be just me. We'll see. Maybe I'll get a guest host. Who knows?
All right. Come on. Don't fire me.
Replace Danny so quickly. He's so replaceable.
Well, the thing is, if you do replace me, you have to do it Trump style. Be like, you're fired.
Yeah, because look at this. Danny's so replaceable. Oh, look, he's gone.
Oh, man.
All right. We will see you all Thursday. Have a great night. And as always... Oh, wait. Why be rude? When you could be sure.
Yeah. You almost forgot.
Have a great night, everybody, and God bless. Bye.